The courtroom buzzed with tension before Mark Wahlberg even stepped inside. Cameras flashed, attorneys whispered, and the judge adjusted her glasses, ready for another intense day of testimony. But nothing could prepare anyone for what was about to happen. When Wahlberg finally entered, he didn't wave or smile. He simply walked in, dressed in a dark tailored suit, clutching a black leather satchel like it held something heavier than paper. His presence alone sent shockwaves through the room. There were no headlines about him being called to testify, no leaks, no hints, just silence until that moment. Reporters scrambled to update their notes, lawyers exchanged uneasy glances, and the press gallery leaned forward in their seats. Everyone knew one thing: whatever Wahlberg had come to say, it wasn't going to be ordinary. It was going to change everything. This trial had already been shaking Hollywood to its core. From the moment Ashton Kutcher took the stand, revealing chilling details about secret parties and hidden cameras, the world watched in horror. Then came Cassie Ventura's emotional testimony, describing how she was manipulated and controlled during events hosted by Diddy. The public began to realize this wasn't just about celebrity gossip, it was about power, fear, and exploitation. As more names surfaced, including Kylie Jenner's, the media frenzy grew stronger. Fans debated online, conspiracy theories spread like wildfire, and legal experts speculated about the implications. But despite all the drama, nothing prepared anyone for the next twist. The arrival of Mark Wahlberg was unexpected, shocking, and deeply significant. If he had something to say, it wouldn't just add fuel to the fire, it would ignite an inferno. The moment Wahlberg handed over the flash drive, the air in the courtroom shifted. You could feel it, a sudden heavy silence that replaced the earlier murmurs. Even the most experienced attorneys in the room looked shaken. Prosecutors immediately requested a private review of the footage, and Judge Reyes agreed. The courtroom recessed, and behind closed doors, the footage was played. What happened next stunned even the most hardened legal professionals. When court resumed, everyone braced themselves for what was coming. The screen lit up, showing grainy but clear footage from years ago. It depicted a dimly lit lounge, upscale, candlelit, definitely somewhere expensive. Laughter could be heard in the background. The camera zoomed slightly, and there he was. Diddy, sitting on a velvet sofa, cigar in hand. Two men sat beside him, their faces blurred. One leaned over and whispered something in Diddy's ear. Then Diddy leaned forward and said the line that made the entire courtroom stop breathing: "They don't get to leave until we say so." Mark Wahlberg didn't waste any time when he finally took his place at the witness stand. Without waiting for the usual formalities, he looked directly at the judge and said, "I'm not here to protect anybody. I saw something. I recorded it. And now it's time people know." His voice was steady, but there was raw emotion behind every word. Prosecutor Kelsey Monroe stepped forward and asked him to explain his connection to the defendant. Wahlberg nodded and began recounting how he met Diddy back in the early 2000s. He spoke about how they moved in similar circles, events, brands, parties, and eventually got invited to exclusive retreats Diddy referred to as executive gatherings. He paused, choosing his words carefully. "They weren't always what they seemed," he said. And then, without another word, he reached into his satchel and pulled out a flash drive. "I brought something," he said. "Something I've never shown anyone, not my team, not even my family." The second clip played moments later, and the impact was even more chilling. This one showed a tight hallway, dimly lit, possibly near a suite or private room. Two women, clearly intoxicated, were being led down the hall by a man in a black hoodie. Diddy followed a few steps behind, speaking low into his phone. The audio was rough, but one line came through loud and clear. "Get him in the room. I want everything on camera." Gasps filled the courtroom. Some jurors covered their mouths, others exchanged horrified glances. Mark Wahlberg sat still, pale-faced, clearly affected by what he was watching. Prosecutor Kelsey Monroe turned to him and asked why he left after that night. "Because I couldn't stay," Wahlberg replied. I never went to another one. When people called, I didn't pick up. When invites came, I threw them away. But the memory, I couldn't shake it. She gently asked why he hadn't come forward sooner. Wahlberg's voice dropped. Because I didn't want to die, he said. I'm not saying that for drama, I mean it. I saw what happened to people who spoke out. They lost jobs, they got bad press, they just disappeared. Wahlberg continued, explaining how fear kept him silent for so long. He described the pressure from powerful figures, the smear campaigns launched against those who crossed certain lines. He recalled receiving a mysterious voicemail shortly after the Hamptons event in 2008. The voice was muffled, distorted, but unmistakable. You didn't see anything, it said. Don't talk, it's just business. You know how this goes. Wahlberg confirmed that the voice belonged to Diddy. I'd recognize that fake friendly tone anywhere, he said. That's how he threatened people, by pretending it was casual. He revealed that 2 weeks after refusing a production deal tied to Diddy, a blog published a smear piece claiming he was hard to work with. Another outlet leaked an old arrest from when he was a teenager. That's when I knew, he said. I was being warned. Prosecutor Monroe asked if he ever confronted Diddy directly. Wahlberg shook his head. I asked once why he recorded people without telling them. He said, because that's the only time you see who they really are. A hush fell over the courtroom. Then came the digital document recovered during the federal raid, a partial file index from a folder titled Cold Cases. Most of the names were blacked out, except one, Jenner. Below it, the words Velvet Axis Observed appeared. Prosecutor Monroe asked if Wahlberg recognized the name. He nodded without hesitation. Allie and I know what Velvet Axis meant, he said. It meant restricted visuals, special clearance. It meant she wasn't just a guest. She was labeled, assigned. He explained how people weren't just invited to these events, they were slotted into roles. Color codes, access levels. Some were there to be seen, others to be used. Kylie, he said quietly, was there to be seen but not to understand what she was seeing. The judge remained silent, arms crossed, listening intently. Then Wahlberg dropped another truth. There were other tapes. Monroe leaned in and asked who else Diddy bragged about holding footage of. Wahlberg hesitated. Other celebrities, he said. I won't name names, I can't prove it, but I heard him talk about leverage. One line stuck with me. She was never supposed to be caught on cam. We claimed it, but I still got the originals. Exhibit 237 was introduced next, an internal memo pulled from a secure communication channel. It was a color-coded schedule from 2019, the same night Kylie Jenner attended a private event in Holmby Hills. The screen lit up, showing a list of names. Each person had 3 things next to their name: handler, room assignment, and camera route. When Kylie's name appeared, it stood out immediately. Her status read, observation unconsented. In other words, she was being watched without her knowledge. Jurors gasped. Monroe read the note at the bottom aloud. Observer profiles to be used for future leverage, no outbound access, secure via Tunnel 3 if necessary. She turned back to Wahlberg. Did he ever mention hidden passageways? Yes, he replied. He used to joke about his rat tunnels. I thought it was just him showing off, but now I get it. He said, you can walk someone in, walk them out the other side, and no one even knows they were there. Then came a new witness, Vincent Perez, a former architect who worked on renovations at the Holmby Hills estate. Were you aware of Tunnel 3? Monroe asked. Yes, Perez answered. I didn't design it. It was already there. I just updated the lighting and ventilation. He wanted it silent. No echoes, no sound. A WhatsApp message was then played, recovered from a backup. Diddy texted an unnamed contact just hours after Kylie Jenner's visit. Go have the footage. Hey, looks good. Going to sit on this. Monroe turned to Wahlberg. Does that sound like him? Absolutely, he said. He always smiled when he was planning something. Another message followed. She don't even remember. Trust me, just gotta make sure her team never finds out." Silence filled the courtroom. Monroe then asked if Wahlberg ever confronted Diddy about the recordings. "Once," he said. I asked why he recorded people without telling them. He said, "Because that's the only time you see who they really are." "And what did he plan to do with those recordings?" Wahlberg's voice dropped. "Nothing," he said, "until he needed to." The judge called for a recess, but as Wahlberg stepped off the witness stand, he paused. He looked out at the room, not into the mic, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "If you ever went to one of those parties, you might be on those tapes." The room exploded. The press rushed out. Headlines were already writing themselves. Wahlberg confirms hidden tape, secret rooms, Kylie tagged as leverage. Hollywood's vault of secrets just got cracked open. Back inside, the jury sat in stunned silence. Not one of them looked at Diddy. Now, this wasn't about whether something happened. It was about how many people helped make it happen, how long they stayed quiet, and how deep this really went. Wahlberg's exit didn't feel like the end. It felt like the beginning of something no one could stop. You could see it on Diddy's face. He wasn't shouting, he wasn't reacting, but his whole body looked like it was barely holding itself together. Just 20 feet from the witness stand, he sat motionless, jaw tight, eyes locked straight ahead, as the illusion of control started slipping away. Then Judge Reyes made a move that caught everyone by surprise. No hesitation, no delay. "We will allow the jury to hear a portion of audio exhibit 244, she said. The court officer handed Monroe the approved playback device. She nodded once and hit play. The room dropped into total silence. Then Diddy's voice filled the courtroom, clear, calm, calculated. "Put her in the gold room. Don't let her out unless I say, and check the damn cameras this time." The date, September 2nd, 2019, the exact night Kylie Jenner had been recorded in the mirrored hallway. The jury froze. One juror dropped their pen. Monroe looked up and said what everyone was thinking. That wasn't a party structure. That was controlled. Then came Samantha Knox, a former low-level assistant who used to work the door at one of Diddy's events back in 2019. She'd been silent for years until her NDA was voided by court order. What she said on the stand changed everything. "I saw the schedule," she said. "Kylie Jenner wasn't the only one marked with velvet. There were 6 names that night, all women, all initials, all color-coded." Monroe asked how the list was organized. "By arrival time," Samantha replied, "then by handler, then by wing." "What was Velvet's job?" "To manage the Velvet Girls," she said. "We didn't answer to anyone, not even the event leads." Then came a chilling line. "We were told not to speak to the Velvet Girls, not to make eye contact, just walk them in and walk away." She confirmed everything had been pre-planned: robes, pass handlers, earpieces. "It wasn't a party," she said. "It was a process." Monroe turned to the jury. "Let the record show this witness confirms full control over guest movement, operating under silence and classification." But Samantha wasn't finished. Monroe asked gently, "Were you ever threatened?" Samantha's voice cracked. She nodded. "When the news broke, I got a letter, no return address. Inside was a note that said, 'What happens in velvet stays in velvet,' and a piece of red string, nothing else." Diddy's lawyers objected, calling it hearsay. But Judge Reyes allowed it. "Limited testimonial relevance," she said. And just like that, the courtroom shifted again. Now it wasn't just about what happened, it was about how far this reached. Monroe returned to her final move, one more piece of audio, recovered from an encrypted cloud system known only as Mirror Lake. A server referenced during Ashton Kutcher's testimony but only recently unlocked. Then Diddy's voice again. "You think they'll talk?" "They won't. They drank, they signed, they stay. That's all that matters." The tone wasn't angry, it was smug, like someone who thought the system he built couldn't be touched, not even by a federal trial. Monroe faced the judge. Your Honor, we rest this segment with the assertion that Mr. Holmes not only recorded people without their knowledge, he stored those files, accessed them after the fact, and used them to control perception and protect himself from exposure. Judge Reyes nodded slowly. Let the record show Exhibit 244 has been authenticated and accepted. Diddy didn't speak. He didn't move, but his legal team had no choice. Hastings stood up. We acknowledge the footage, he said, but we deny any claims of coercion. Mr. Combs is a producer. He films everything. It was part of his brand, known and accepted by those involved. Monroe didn't flinch. Consent, she said, is never implied. Not when people are assigned handlers, have their phones confiscated, and their names removed from logs. The judge called a recess, but the courtroom didn't feel like it was winding down. It felt like it had detonated. Outside, chaos erupted. Kylie Jenner's legal team released a statement. Kylie does not deny her presence at Mr. Combs' residence. She is fully cooperating with the authorities. That single sentence flipped everything. No denial, full cooperation. It wasn't just a scandal anymore. It was an open vote. Federal agents requested full archive access to the Holmby Hills servers. Wahlberg's flash drive was sent for deeper cross-reference. Rumors swirled that sealed subpoenas were going out, that other celebrities listed in the cold cases folder might be called next. But no one said the most chilling part out loud. Maybe this wasn't just about one man's crimes. Maybe it was a mirror, showing what the entire industry knew, what it allowed, and what it kept quiet for far too long. Before leaving court, Monroe spoke briefly to the press. This trial is no longer about what happened in one room. It's about the rooms no one knew existed and the people who built them to stay that way. And as clips from Wahlberg's testimony went viral, one headline said it best. Hollywood's vault has opened, and the tapes are real. By the next morning, everything had changed. What started with one unexpected witness, Mark Wahlberg, had triggered something far bigger than anyone predicted. This wasn't just about one tape, one party, or even one celebrity anymore. Agents were moving fast. They weren't just reviewing footage. They were opening vaults, tracing connections, and quietly delivering sealed subpoenas to people across Hollywood. Big names, familiar faces, people who once thought they were untouchable. Behind the scenes, panic set in. Some celebrities suddenly went silent, disabling comments, disappearing from social media. Others began crafting statements through lawyers, hoping to get ahead of whatever might come out next. And a few, they already had legal teams working around the clock. One well-known artist released a single line to the press. We're reviewing past events tied to this matter, no further comment. To most people, that might sound normal, but to those paying attention, it was clear they knew something, and they were worried that whatever they knew was already caught on tape. Inside the courthouse, the jury remained quiet. But something had shifted. This trial was no longer about whether Diddy made a mistake one night. It was about something bigger, a system, a structure, one that was built to hide the truth, move people in silence, and leave no trace. And worst of all, there were people who helped build it, people who looked away, people who stayed quiet because it was easier than speaking up. And then came Wahlberg's final line, the one that no one could forget. If you ever went to one of those parties, you might be on those tapes. He didn't say it into the mic. He didn't need to. Once that sentence hit the air, there was only one question left hanging. Who's going to speak next?